History remembers them charging machine guns, storming beaches, escaping prison camps, and changing the course of World War II. But almost none of them died the way you'd expect. One legendary commander survived some of the bloodiest battles in history, only to be killed in a completely ordinary accident. Another hero disappeared into the jungle, and his body was never found. One of America's greatest generals died just weeks before the war ended, from injuries caused by something no enemy soldier fired. And one of the most famous resistance fighters in Europe was executed by the Nazis after a betrayal that historians still debate today. Their final moments are far more shocking than the victories that made them famous. And the last story may be the most heartbreaking of them all. By late 1945, General George S. Patton had become a legend. His Third Army had raced across France faster than anyone thought possible. His tanks smashed through German defenses during the Battle of the Bulge, helping stop Hitler's last major offensive. Many Americans believed Patton was unstoppable. But after Germany surrendered, the battlefield became strangely quiet. Patton hated it. He openly criticized Allied occupation policies and often clashed with his own commanders. Some even believed his outspoken personality would end his military career. Then, on the 9th of December 1945, everything changed in seconds. Patton wasn't leading tanks. He wasn't under enemy fire. He was simply riding in a military Cadillac through Germany. A U.S. Army truck suddenly crossed the road. The collision wasn't especially violent. Everyone else walked away. Patton didn't. The impact broke his neck and severely injured his spinal cord. For nearly 2 weeks he remained in the hospital. Visitors expected the famous general to recover. Instead, a blood clot traveled to his lungs. On the 21st of December, 1945, George Patton died at age 60, not in combat, not fighting Nazis, but from complications after an ordinary traffic accident. Even today, conspiracy theories claim Patton was assassinated. Most historians reject those claims because no convincing evidence has ever been found. The official explanation remains exactly what investigators concluded in 1945, a tragic accident. But Patton wasn't the only legendary commander whose ending stunned the world. The next hero didn't die after the war. He never made it home at all. British Major General Orde Wingate believed armies could fight differently instead of large battles. He trained small units to strike deep behind enemy lines. His special forces became known as the Chindits. Operating inside the jungles of Burma, they destroyed bridges, railroads, and supply lines while surrounded by Japanese forces. Many soldiers called the missions nearly impossible. Wingate accepted enormous risks. Some admired him as a military genius. Others believed he was reckless. In March 1944, after inspecting troops in Burma, Wingate boarded a US B-25 Mitchell bomber. Minutes after takeoff, the aircraft flew into thick clouds over remote mountains. Then, silence. The plane slammed into a hillside. Everyone on board died instantly. The crash site remained hidden for days before rescue teams found it. Wingate was only 41 years old. His unconventional tactics would later influence modern special operations forces around the world. Yet, many Americans have never even heard his name. And while Wingate's death was sudden, the next story became one of the greatest betrayals of World War II. France had fallen. But not every French citizen surrendered. Across occupied France, secret resistance networks sabotaged railroads, gathered intelligence, and risked execution every single day. One man united many of those groups. His name was Jean Moulin. Working secretly for General Charles de Gaulle, Moulin traveled across occupied France under false identities. Every meeting could be his last. Then came June 1943. The Gestapo raided a secret resistance meeting near Lyon. Samona had betrayed them. Moulin was captured by Klaus Barbie, later known as the Butcher of Lyon. For weeks, he was brutally tortured. The Nazis wanted names, safe houses, radio operators, resistance leaders, according to surviving witnesses. Moulin never revealed them. He died during transport toward Germany. Exactly when remains uncertain. Most historians believe he died from torture. Related injuries in July 1943. His silence protected countless resistance fighters. Today, Jean Moulin remains one of France's greatest national heroes. But while Moulin died protecting others, America's next hero survived one impossible mission after another, only to lose his life decades later, in an unexpected way. On D-Day, Lieutenant Dick Winters parachuted into Normandy before sunrise. His scattered company was surrounded by confusion. Many soldiers never reached their assigned positions. Then Winters made a decision. With only a handful of men, he attacked a heavily defended German artillery battery at Bricourt Manor. Military academies still study the assault today. The attack helped protect troops landing on Utah Beach. Later, his leadership inspired the book, an HBO series, Band of Brothers. Unlike many wartime heroes, Winters survived. He returned home, raised a family, and rarely spoke about his own achievements. He died peacefully in 2011, at age 92 after living with Parkinson's disease. His greatest victory wasn't simply surviving the war. It was choosing a quiet life after unimaginable violence. But one famous commander never even saw victory. His death came only weeks before Nazi Germany surrendered. General Frank Andrews was one of America's most respected air commanders. Many historians believe he was a leading candidate to command the Allied invasion of Europe. Instead, that role went to Dwight D. Eisenhower. Then tragedy struck. On May 3, 1943, his B-24 bomber approached Iceland through heavy fog. Visibility collapsed. The aircraft slammed into a mountainside. Most aboard were killed instantly. His death changed Allied leadership forever. Some historians argue that if Andrews had lived, he, not Eisenhower, might have commanded D-Day. No one can know for certain. But history could have looked very different. And finally, there is one hero whose death still symbolizes the incredible cost of freedom. Audie Murphy wasn't expected to survive childhood. He grew up in poverty, too small for military service at first. He eventually enlisted after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Then he accomplished what almost seemed impossible. Single-handedly, he climbed onto a burning tank destroyer. Using its machine gun, he held off an entire German attack while directing American artillery. For an hour, alone. His actions earned the Medal of Honor. After the war, Murphy became a Hollywood actor. Millions watched him portray his own life on screen. It seemed he had escaped the horrors of war. But many close friends noticed something else. Nightmares, insomnia, emotional scars. Today, many experts believe he struggled with what we now recognize as post-traumatic stress disorder. Though the condition was understood differently at the time, on May 28, 1971, Murphy boarded a small private airplane. Bad weather surrounded the mountains of Virginia. The aircraft crashed. There were no survivors. America's greatest combat hero died at just 45 years old. Not in battle, but decades after the war had ended. World War II created heroes whose courage changed history. Yet their final chapters remind us of something unexpected. Many didn't die charging into battle. Some were betrayed. Some died in accidents. Some lived long enough to carry invisible wounds that never fully healed. Their greatest victories weren't always the battles we remember. Sometimes, their greatest victory was refusing to give up when everything around them demanded they should. And perhaps that's why these stories still matter today. Because history isn't only about how heroes fought. It's also about how they lived. And how, in the end, they faced their final moments with the same courage that made them legends.